native. Go Spurs. Senator Cornyn has served the people of Texas for nearly 4 decades as a district judge, a justice on the Texas Supreme Court, and as Texas Attorney General, before representing the Lone Star State in the U.S. Senate. So please join me in welcoming U.S. Senator John Cornyn.
Well, thank you, Sean. Let me start by just saying I apologize. We're a little late. We had a headwind coming out of Austin, but I'm told we get back to Austin a little faster this evening. And it's great to see all of you. Thank you for bringing all these students here. And we'll try to be on our best behavior and be a good example for all of them. But I want to thank the Chamber and Dead Beach Brewing Company for hosting us here today. And I'm anxious to hear from each of you. But it's great to be back in El Paso. Some of you know my dad was stationed at William Beaumont Army Hospital when I was that big. And I was never that big, I guess. But when I was very young, so always loved coming back to El Paso. Judge, thank you for being here, and to all of the distinguished company here. Last year, I visited with job creators from around the state and asked them what they needed from the federal government to reinvest in their business and in their employees and in their communities. And I asked families what it would help to make them thrive and provide them more of what they need in order to provide a good education for their children and to take care of their loved ones. And so, working together with my colleagues in the Congress, we put together a piece of legislation that we believe made some significant strides in protecting hardworking Texans, a bill called the Working Family Tax Cuts Act. You may have heard from President Trump, he called it the One Big Beautiful Bill, but it's officially the Working Family Tax Cuts Act. But some of the components of that are, because it was such a big, massive piece of legislation, most of the components of the bill are not particularly well understood. And what I'd like to try to do today is sort of flesh that out and talk about the application of different components of it to your business and to your situation. So, first thing we did is prevent a huge tax increase, about $3,000 for an average working family in Texas. Now, what happened in 2017, we passed important tax reform legislation, and some of the provisions of that bill were going to expire at the end of last year, so we had to extend those, and that's how we saved families from having to pay more in taxes. We all know that everything is more expensive these days, including raising children, and so we thought it was important to raise the child tax credit to $2,200, and we also provided for it to be inflation adjusted. And then we provided a new $6,000 bonus tax deduction for seniors on their Social Security benefits, and we were able to reduce the budget deficit by $400 billion. Now, I know these numbers are so big it's hard to get your brain around it, but we currently have about $38 trillion in national debt, and we're paying more on interest on the national debt than we are on defense. So this is not a sustainable situation. So we felt like it was really important to make a down payment toward reducing some of the spending. And I know this is kind of down in the weeds, but you know Congress does an annual appropriations bill, and we're working on that right now. But 72% of the federal spending is on autopilot. It's mandatory spending. And so really that's the source of a lot of the spending and the deficit increase that we see. So we made a $400 billion down payment by reducing the deficit. We also expanded and renewed the opportunity zones. You're familiar with those here in El Paso, but some of the areas that provided different tax benefits to encourage investment and job creation, and these opportunity zones by bringing in billions of investment dollars and creating hundreds of thousands of jobs all across the nation. And then we delivered some historic wins for small business owners like Dead Beach here. making small business tax deductions permanent, allowing full expensing of capital investment. So if Dead Beach buys a new piece of equipment, they can expense it in the year they buy it rather than have to depreciate it over time. And we made the tax provisions in this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, individual tax rates permanent. As you know, it seems like Congress sort of operates from crisis to crisis, from shutdown to shutdown, and from expiration of different programs. What we did is decided that we're done with that when it comes to tax policy. We made this provisions permanent. We also slashed the trade deficit by 62%, which is important news for the Sun City, one of our largest exporters. And I look forward to hearing from all of you about different ways that this legislation has affected you. And as always, I would welcome your advice on other things that we need to do that would make it easier for you to do your job and make it easier for people to find work in El Paso. So Sean, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn. We have a great agenda and a great program here today. I'd like to introduce Daniel Perez from El Paso Electric, who's going to help us navigate through everything.
Thank you, Sean. Well, like Sean said, Daniel Perez, Director of Government Affairs, Regulatory and Government Affairs at El Paso Electric, and just want to say thank you, Senator, for joining us today, and thank you to the Chamber, Manny and Ricardo, for allowing me to moderate today's conversation. And with that, now I have the privilege and honor of introducing a person who just took over. I say just because it feels like just yesterday, but it's amazing what he's been able to do with the organization in the short time he's been in charge. Ricardo Mora, President and CEO of El Paso Chamber, where again he leads the efforts to strengthen the regional economy, promote, and this is an understatement, promote cross-border collaboration, because I know that that's very near and dear to his mission. So with that, Ricardo.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for the opportunity. Welcome again, Senator Ricardo Mora, CEO for the El Paso Chamber. And the El Paso Chamber unites businesses, government, and community leaders to advocate for growth, champion innovation, and build sustainable prosperity across the El Paso region. And what we're talking about today and what you've shared is really prosperity for our small businesses that we represent. So I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm thrilled to be part of this conversation and to learn more about the agenda and everything that is happening in Washington in favor of our community like El Paso. So again, welcome to El Paso. Happy to be here and to be part of this roundtable and with all our colleagues.
Thank you, Ricardo. So first up, we'll hear from Tony Asael. She is the owner of Morramia, which it says here, a popular local restaurant. I'm going to say a very popular local restaurant that contributes to our hospitality and our small business community while creating jobs and welcoming families from both sides of the border and all across the region.
Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for being here, Senator. You've already been welcomed. I hate to be the first one to speak, but 2025, I think, was a very odd year. It brought a lot of complications and challenges for a small business like mine. And I am in the restaurant industry, as you heard, and it was very sad to hear that in the last few months, businesses that had been in business for over a decade closed down. Very well-established businesses. It was very sad to see them go. And it was also an alert for others in the industry. Mr. Orrantia can share with us his experiences, but we kind of heard the alert that we needed to start doing more to stay in business as a restaurant. And after COVID, it started being very hard to get skilled workers and who were committed workers and who wanted really to build a career or be committed in the long term with a restaurant. It was already being very hard. And then 2025, the costs of food and other products skyrocketed, and that forced us to try to keep ourselves in the market and try not to raise prices, but at the same time, try to manage things to keep a nice profit margin for us, of course. And so we also experienced a decline in sales, and I think that is because we need more money in people's pockets. And I think that this bill is right on bringing that. I know that a lot of my servers are going to be super excited, and even the cooks of these tax credits, and also the credit on overtime, because with the lack of people, we have had the necessity of employing our regular employees more hours. So they have been working overtime, of course, and they will be very happy about this credit. And I really thank you for coming with these initiatives. And I am very excited to see what happens also in my tax returns, because my CPAs can't stop talking about those tax credits on tips, that as a business we can also get a benefit. So thank you very much, and let's put money in people's pockets so they keep going out and eating out, right, Mr. Orrentia? And we can keep a lot of businesses open here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And now, moving, she mentioned about her workforce and how happy they were going to be. Turning it over to Melissa Sapien with Workforce Solutions Borderplex, who, again, as an organization has the task, the huge task of ensuring that our Borderplex region has the workforce we need. She works directly with programs that support job seekers and working families across the region.
Hi, good morning. My name is Melissa Sapien. I'm an organizational effectiveness and research specialist with Workforce, and I'm here to talk about how the programs benefit my family. Not only am I an employee with Workforce, but I am a happily married and I have 4 children with another on the way. And programs such as childcare and the child tax credit help not only my children have access to early childhood education, because it's a very important component, but the child tax credit also helps us, sustain annually because of the rising costs. Not only do we, does it impact us with groceries, but it impacts us with school supplies, with any type of sports that my kids have me on my toes constantly. So I think that this act is very good, it's very beneficial, not just for my family, but for others.
Thank you, Melissa. And then now to the person that runs Workforce Solutions Borderplex, and she needs no introduction. There's no economic development situation, opportunity, anything where Layla isn't consulted or she's not leading the charge. So please join me in welcoming Layla Melendez, CEO of Workforce Solutions, where again she works with employers, educators, economic development partners to make sure that our region has the workforce skills to keep us competitive.
Thank you, Daniel. Good afternoon, Senator. Thank you for being here. Ricardo, thank you for including Workforce. As Daniel mentioned, I'm the CEO of the Workforce Board here in El Paso, and we serve the 6 counties in far west Texas. So our region spans all the way in this metro area, but all the way out to Brewster County and down into Presidio County. So all of West Texas, a very diverse community and market mixed with metro and rural needs. So the Workforce Board and the Workforce Boards in Texas administer all of the different workforce programs. And one of the largest cost is the child care program. So this bill and the different components of it, starting with the tax rates and the deductions, those are absolutely helpful to individual families and to job seekers and workers in general. Melissa spoke a little bit about the tax credit. And then there's some other things, including those education savings accounts. I think those are going to be an important component that help families prepare for future education for their children. We are absolutely in that pipeline, that education pipeline space, and we really do encourage, and starting with our child care all the way into our K through 12 system, are working really hard to strengthen our education pipeline. I also really appreciate the tax credits for employers to contribute into the child care program. Child care is economic infrastructure. Every type of employer relies on quality, consistent child care. So the child care program is really important, and allowing families to better afford the cost of child care, which is tremendously expensive, is really important, and what allows them to have other income for them to spend on other things in the bill, like the restaurants, like the automotive credit that's in there. So where they have more space to spend, that's what we all want. So want to thank you for your work on that, and look forward to serving the workforce and preparing the talent in this community to serve the other small businesses. Thank you.
And now again, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about my restaurant preferences, but again, like Morramia, now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Juan Carlos Rantiago, owner of Corralito Steakhouse, Hueso Steakhouse, and FWS Logistics International, which again, I'm sure you all have been to these great establishments. Food's amazing, and truly bring an experience in both hospitality and logistics to our area, and firsthand knowledge of supply chain challenges and everything that comes with a small business, right?
Thank you, Daniel. And hello, everybody. Thank you, Ricardo, for inviting us. Thank you, Senator, for visiting us. It's always good to see our elected officials come and visit us. And as Tony said, after COVID, it's been a roller coaster. But this year, last year was especially tough. We got to get the grocery prices down. Even worse, being a steakhouse owner, meat prices, we got to do something about that. Nobody can have a ribeye anymore. So that's definitely being very hard on us. And employee-wise, that is something, this no tax on tips and also the overtime. It's very similar to what Tony's been saying. We have fewer people because we lost a lot of workforce. No tax on tips is helping us get it back. And also having to pay overtime so much because we're working, the ones that are there more, is also a very big problem. But I just wanted to thank you for being here, and to get those meat prices down, I'll invite you for a ribeye, Senator.
And now moving on to, we've been talking about the no tax on tips. Someone directly impacted by that. We're joined today by Mr. Jacob Barron, who, he's and he's a hospitality professional at Casa Pantera with more than a decade of experience, and since the opening of that restaurant. But he focuses on delivering strong service and supporting working families there at the establishment. But again, the no tax on tips and how huge that is for the industry.
Thank you for the introduction. Crazy, great honor to be sitting here with all of you. Feel pretty special to be here. As someone who's directly affected by the no tax on tips, it's going to make a huge impact. For someone who solely relies on tips to get by income-wise, the no tax on overtime makes a huge difference because it was in effect losing a lot in the workforce. That those who decided to stay and stay strong and fight through it are finally getting a little bit of payback. So I do appreciate that. It's going to make a huge impact for those who, again, back to my little notes, just incentivizes the workforce to keep working hard and realize that there is someone looking out for the little guy. So I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob. And now I'll turn it over to somebody who I tend to be working with very closely in the government relations space for the chamber. Garrett Yancey, he's general counsel at Joe Materials, which, again, if you're in this room, you very well know what Job represents for the region. They're one of the leading construction material companies, and again, Garrett works closely on legal, workforce, and growth-related business issues. Garrett.
Thank you, Daniel. Always get awkward hearing somebody talk about you like that. Senator, really appreciate you being here today. Honored to talk with you about some issues affecting not only our company, but the construction industry as a whole. The no tax on overtime was a major hit with our employees. You know, the minute that got announced, we had a number of employees calling into our HR department, you know, asking if that meant their paycheck was higher that week. And, you know, so we had to put out a memorandum explaining what the bill was and how it would affect them. But it was certainly a big hit with our employees and a meaningful benefit to them. As in the construction industry, you're talking about a lot of blue-collar workers that are working an hourly wage, and so that is very important and meaningful to them. Another thing that, you know, was very beneficial to our company and others was the restoration of the bonus depreciation to 100%. You know, that allows companies like us and entices companies like us to want to invest in equipment to help us, you know, not only increase our production capacities, but also build and grow our company through that manner. So that was a huge hit as well. Those are great starting points, but there is more that needs to be done. El Paso is at the start of a construction bonanza, so to say, with the data center, things that are being built in this region, infrastructure projects like the Downtown 10 that's coming up, the Bridge of the Americas project that should be coming online too in the next few years. We need more workers and need to entice more workers to the construction industry to help not only build infrastructure and buildings literally, but in our company to help produce the materials that are needed to be the building blocks of those buildings, infrastructure, roads, and highways. So we look forward to see what's come, you know, this coming year and the years to come to really help allow the construction industry to build, you know, the buildings and infrastructure that America needs for it to continue to be prosperous. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. It's exciting to hear you bring up, you know, the list of huge infrastructure projects about to take off here in our region. Now I'll turn it over to a community advocate, Mrs. Debbie Torres, lifelong Mission Valley resident and community advocate. She's spent years working on neighborhood leadership, civic engagement, and issues affecting families and our seniors that we always need to keep at the forefront whenever we're making these decisions, right? Debbie.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I love the diversity of, you know, how this roundtable has been constructed to really point at all of the different needs in our community. And I want to thank you, Senator Cornyn, for being here. I want to thank you for all of the work that you did in getting this bill passed. It has meant a lot to the community, especially those who are on fixed incomes, and there are many of those in our community. I reside in the Mission Valley, which is south of I-10, extends to Loop 375, all the way east to close to the Isleta Port of Entry, and all the way west, almost to right around Delta. And that is a very unique area in many respects, age-wise, income-wise, and oftentimes overlooked a bit, but very important. One of the oldest communities, the third largest area of the city. And I serve on the El Paso Neighborhood Coalition, which is kind of like a clearinghouse for almost 100 neighborhood associations across the city. And I represent the Mission Valley Association, which is close to about 15 associations. And I made a point of communicating with all of them to get some meaningful feedback. I didn't want it to be just my opinion. And basically, the resounding response was people are thrilled with all of the benefits that will come out of this bill. One lady, similar to what Tony said, actually contacted her CPA and said, okay, you know, is this good or bad? And the CPA was like over the moon. He couldn't speak more positively about what this would mean for the average family. Also, we do have a lot of the folks who live in the Mission Valley are retired. They're on fixed incomes. And so this means a lot to us as far as the discounts for seniors. Additionally, there was a lot of positive language about including people who do not itemize, which is well, I won't say once you reach a certain age, but I think once you reach the point where your income picture changes and you do find yourself not itemizing, this is very much of a wonderful thing for them, because we can still have the opportunity to take advantage of a lot of the provisions here in this bill. So once again, thank you very much, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. And you know, again, another theme today has been about if folks have a little bit more cash in their pockets. You know, now hearing from somebody that directly works in the space of charitable contributions, right? So turning it over to Jordan Barron, partner at Evolve 7 Digital and founder of Donor Charm, which supports nonprofit fundraising and helps strengthen charitable giving and community organizations across El Paso.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Senator, for being here, and thank you, Mr. Mora, for hosting us today at Dead Beach Brewery. I mean, I feel like the Working Families Tax Cut Act is the perfect name for this. In my world, I'm going to start referring it as the Working Family Giving Incentive, because that's pretty much what it does. It incentivizes working families who take the standardized deduction to get an additional $1,000 or $2,000 per household back into their pockets. And essentially what this act has done is it's incentivizes millions of people and individuals who typically wouldn't donate to start donating to local charities, local nonprofits, and keeping that money back in our communities. So again, in my world, this is huge, and I'm sure that many nonprofits and foundations are going to be very thankful for this. So thank you, Senator, for your work on this.
Thank you, Jordan. And then, now I have the privilege of welcoming one of our elected officials, which, if you've heard him speak, he's probably our most enthusiastic ambassador wherever he goes to talk about our region in either language. He's a fantastic representative of us. So today we're joined by El Paso County Judge Ricardo Samaniego.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. And Senator, thank you for being here. It's not the first time. I was privileged. I met the Senator during the Walmart tragedy. It was one of the very few that came in, and your professionalism, the way you dealt with the families, I think we understood that you understood us as well. This is a very unique community, very beautiful community that requires a better understanding. And so we're very privileged whenever someone of your caliber that represents the state comes here and listens to us, because there's so much uniqueness. Not just being by the border, but there's just so many things that happen. We're in a region that is very dynamic, very excited. We've got so many things that are going to be able to take place. But I think one of the most important things is that we look at things from a balance. Sometimes you're able to say, well, we're going to have certain benefits, but then it might be on the other end, we might be challenged. And I think the biggest challenge, El Paso, as we know, during the COVID, it was so incredible, the impact. At one time being one of the worst in the world, and then being able to reach herd immunity as one of the first in Texas and second in the entire United States. And so we know how to come together, and once we understand the challenge, we do a great job of coming together and being able. I think you might not know the individuals here, but this group sitting at this table, the diversified group that's here, it's amazing. Collaboration is probably one of the most important things that you're going to hear about El Paso, of how we come together. I'm also very happy to see students, America's being here, because you represent our future, and you need to understand these dynamics. But one of the most important things that I see, one of the challenges, is that our healthcare. And right now, so many of the small businesses are telling me, yesterday I met with one business owner telling me about, this is the owner, okay, that has 50 people, saying that she didn't have insurance because it was too expensive for her. And so we know very well that the basis and the foundation of any community is to have health care, to be healthy. As we always said, the first line of defense, whether COVID, is being healthy. And unfortunately, El Paso has one of the highest indices of cancer, diabetes, and heart issues of any place. And so we're very particular. We said, we promised that when we saw how many people died, almost 94% of the people that died during the COVID had an underlying health issue. So we know it's one of the biggest challenges for El Paso, and by not addressing that quickly, you get into other issues. And one of the most important things that I've seen is that timely health care is such an economic contributor, because delayed health care is one of the most expensive. Someone comes in here and goes to the doctor and they take care of them. It's like night and day if you delay treatment. And what happens is that if we can't afford the treatment, the second option might be going to Juarez unofficially, and it costs a lot of money crossing back and forth. And at one point, it doesn't make continued sense to be there. And then they come back to El Paso, and now it's a very expensive ordeal for anybody. And then what happens in my case, being represent UMC, and when you start having individuals that come in for very, aggressive type of treatment, and without having insurance, it makes it extremely difficult for that hospital to continue. We're very fortunate that UMC actually now has almost 72% of the individuals that go there have insurance, but it's beginning to decline. And that was such an accomplishment for a county hospital, where people are beginning to choose a county hospital over a private hospital. Says a lot about our health care and what we're trying to accomplish. And we have to hold that. We got to protect that, because it begins to decline and more uninsured. You can imagine the pressure on the hospital, the type of quality that might be affected. And so to me, it's very important that we look at the balance of saying, if I'm not making enough to take advantage of the cuts or the tax opportunities, and you don't have enough, you're not making enough to be able to take advantage of that, it puts people in a huge stress situation. And so what I would like to see more than anything, Senator, is that we look at the balance of, when SNAP was removed, for example, I cannot begin to tell you the impact it had on our community. And as county officials, what happens is that anything that goes wrong, any federal issues, anything that's taken away from a community, the first reaction is, what is the county going to do? What is government going to do? And it puts a huge stress on us. And of course, a lot of our federal grants have been cut back. And so that's what I would like to see, Senator, that we sort of look at the overall picture of what is it that helps a community to be successful. And right now, it's like healthcare. We need to protect that. But we also need to understand, well, how are we going to compensate for things like SNAP not being available, or not having the food pantries being able to supply that. So I thank you for these conversations. They're very important to us. As I said, we're so far from the capital that having you here, it's a privilege. It really is, because the more you understand, and I learned that from COVID, because the government was trying to address COVID as to what happened in San Antonio what was happening in Houston, what was happening in Dallas, as if whatever happened there, we could do in El Paso. And we found out it was totally different. And in the same way, because you're a border community, because you have all of these others, it's almost, we have almost 100,000 residents and citizens from the United States that actually live in Juarez and in Chihuahua. And they're there because they have to take care of their parents, they have to do other things that are very not likely that would happen here. So once again, this is a very complicated, has a lot of pieces to it, and I think this is a great discussion and audience to be able to look at not sort of specific things. You know, having a tax break might address some things, but might overlook other things. So I hope we look at it from a holistic approach. Thank you, Senator.
All right, Daniel, thank you for facilitating the evening, the afternoon. I'd like to wrap this up and close it, but before we do that, Senator Cornyn, we just want to thank you once again for coming out here. Absolutely.
So before we wrap it up, let me just thank you once again for being here. And, you know, I remind people in other states that El Paso is closer to the Pacific Ocean than it is to the tip of East Texas. And to your point, Judge, being on an international border right next to Mexico, El Paso has some incredible assets. It's a beautiful city, but it's got some unique challenges. And I know sometimes folks don't come out here as much as they could. Thank goodness the airline connections are much better than they used to be, but it's great to be back. But one thing, you know, we talk about the uniqueness of El Paso. I was looking at the front page of the newspaper today, and one of the stories on the front page of the El Paso newspaper was the opening of a new Mexican restaurant. So I know we love to eat well, and I thought that was kind of humorous when I saw that. But of course, our restaurant industries are where a lot of people get their